Audio test. Test. Good evening. I now call this appeal hearing to order. Director Brown, roll call, please.
Good evening. This is the roll call for the special call meeting for today, January 28th, Wednesday at 6:00 PM. Mayor Ellison,
Here.
Councilwoman James,
Present.
Councilwoman Gunn,
Present.
Councilman Gutierrez, Councilwoman Akins Wells,
Here.
and Councilman Mears.
Here, ma'am.
Mayor Ellison, you have a quorum.
For tonight's agenda, is there anything the governing body wishes to add or delete?
No, I make a motion that we approve the minutes. Approve the agenda as noted.
Okay, any second? Second by Councilwoman Gunn. The motion passes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We'll proceed with the agenda. As mayor, I will be presiding over tonight's proceedings, which concern the appeal filed by Ms. Randy Rainey in response to the city manager's decision to terminate her employment as the city clerk. Ms. Rainey has exercised her right to appeal within the required 10-day appeal period, and this hearing is being held to review the termination. Before we begin, I want to note that the city council and I have already received and reviewed the record related to this matter, including the official termination notice and all related documents submitted as part of the administrative process. This prior review is intended to ensure that each council member enters the hearing with an understanding of the issues and the basis for the city manager's decision. Let me take a moment to outline how tonight's appeal hearing will proceed so that all parties understand the order and expectations. The parties will have 30 minutes to present. First, the city manager or her designee will present the grounds for the termination, explain the investigative process, and provide any additional evidence or testimony not already in the record. Next, Ms. Rainey or her representative will present. During these presentations, both sides may submit documents or other evidence for the council's consideration. They may also call witnesses to provide relevant testimony. All materials and testimony should relate directly to the basis for the termination. After both sides have conducted their presentations, the city council will have the opportunity to ask questions. These questions may concern the documents submitted, the testimony offered, or any other matter relevant to our review of the city manager's decision. Once questioning has concluded, Ms. Rainey will be given an additional 10 minutes to offer a closing statement. After the closing statement, the evidentiary portion of the hearing will be closed. We will then move into deliberations. The city code does not require that a decision be made immediately at the close of this hearing. However, please note that when the council does render its decision, the city manager's action may be overturned only by 3 affirmative votes of the mayor and council. If the council upholds the termination, that termination becomes effective immediately upon the council's decision. If the council overturns the action, Ms. Rainey will return to duty under the conditions established by the city council. Our goal tonight is to ensure a fair, orderly, and transparent process consistent with the city code and respectful of all parties involved. I ask that everyone maintain professionalism and adhere to the procedures as outlined. With that, we will begin. I now invite the city manager to present.
All right. Greetings, Madam Mayor and Council.
Greetings.
Thank you for the opportunity to present and document the basis for the interim city manager's recommendation to terminate the employment of Clerk Randy Rainey. This justification is submitted to formally outline the rationale for the recommendation and to provide relevant historical context leading up to this action. This justification is submitted to formally document the basis for the interim city manager's recommendation to terminate the employment of City Clerk Rainey and to provide historical context leading up to the recommendation. The city clerk position is a critical executive level role responsible for ensuring the effective support of the governing body, compliance with statutory requirements, accuracy of official records, timely execution of city business and coordination of council operations. The city's ability to function efficiently and lawfully relies heavily on consistent performance in this role. The recommendation for termination is based on a continuous and well-documented pattern of performance deficiencies, not isolated incidents, and not limited to the interim city manager's tenure. Ms. Rainey's personnel file reflects that substantially similar performance concerns were documented under the former city manager, including deficiencies related to operational efficiency and responsiveness, timely execution of council-related and city business matters, follow through on time-sensitive directives, attention to details and matters affecting statutory compliance and governance. The former city manager found Clerk Rainey's action to be egregious enough that he drafted the following actions to include a last chance agreement on October 10th, 2024, a letter of termination written to mayor and council on August 21st, 2025. These concerns predate the interim city manager's appointment and establishes a clear history of unresolved performance issues. On September 3rd, that was my first day of transition, and September 15th, the chief of staff and I met with Clerk Rainey to mentor, coach, and counsel, and to provide an opportunity for personal improvement. The chief of staff additionally offered ongoing coaching sessions and support improvement and reinforce ownership of the city clerk's role. On November 3rd, 2025, Clerk Rainey received an employee disciplinary action, a final written reprimand due to repeated errors in council agenda packets and meeting minutes to include unrest with council and Forest Park residents regarding the elections process. On January 5th, 2026, Clerk Rainey received an employee disciplinary action in the form of a suspension to be scheduled pursuant to the city charter, section 314, due to continued work quality issues and inaccuracies, including failure to follow through on critical and time-sensitive information impacting city operations. Following the January 5th meeting and prior to finalizing the suspension, additional performance issues or deficiencies were identified and articulated at the January 5th City Council meeting when the meeting minutes were read publicly, further demonstrating a lack of corrective improvement and resulting in the recommendation for termination. During the 5-month transition period under my transition as the interim city manager, Ms. Rainey was provided with the opportunity to demonstrate improvement in operational reliability. Throughout this period, the interim city manager directly observed Ms. Rainey's performance in real time as it relates to support of council operations, responsiveness to executive direction, execution of core city clerk responsibilities. Despite this opportunity, the same deficiencies persisted without sustained or measurable improvement, resulting in ongoing operational disruption and inefficiencies that impacted the governing body and city administration. Pursuant to City Charter Section 314, the city manager is authorized to supervise appointed officers, evaluate performance, and take appropriate personnel action, including the recommendation of termination when it's determined to be in the best interest of the city. The charter does not require a minimal supervisory period from a particular city manager before taking disciplinary action. Employment decisions may be properly considered to include the employee's full personnel record, documented deficiencies under prior administrations, current performance and operational impact. City personnel policies, including Rule 6 and Rule 11, further support management authority to take corrective action up to and including termination when performance deficiencies are ongoing and prior corrective measures have failed to achieve improvement. The recommendation to terminate Ms. Rainey's employment, again, is based on a sustained history of documented performance deficiencies, continuation of those deficiencies during the interim city manager's tenure, the absence of documented corrective improvement, the critical nature of the city clerk's role in supporting effective governance. Continued employment under these circumstances is not aligned with the city's operational needs or governance responsibilities. The interim city manager recommends to terminate the employment of City Clerk Rainey is responsible, supported by the record, and consistent with the authority granted under the city charter and applicable personnel policies. The decision is grounded in performance-based considerations and the best interests of the city, not the duration of supervisory oversight, but by the interim city manager. I would further like to add that pursuant to City Charter Section 314, the interim city manager is vested with the authority and responsibility to evaluate executive performance and to recommend termination when it is determined to be in the best interest of the city's operation and governance. Again, the recommendation to terminate Ms. Rainey's employment is not based solely on the interim city manager's 5-month tenure, but rather on a documented sustained pattern of performance deficiencies that predate the current administration and continue without material improvement during the transition period. Ms. Rainey's personnel and supervisory records reflect consistent performance concerns documented under the former city manager, including to, but not limited to, ongoing lack of operational efficiency in supporting the governing body, failure to timely and effectively execute core statutory administrative duties of the city clerk, repeated delays adversely impacting city business and council operations, deficiencies in responsiveness, follow through, and attention to detail. These deficiencies were known, documented, and communicated prior to the interim city manager's appointment, forming part of the employee's established performance record. During the 5-month transition period consistent with the interim city manager's duties under Charter Section 314, Ms. Rainey was provided continual opportunity to demonstrate improvement, clear expectations regarding performance standards and operational accountability, ongoing observation and assessment of her execution of essential city clerk responsibilities. During these opportunities, the same deficiencies persisted in the same, and in some instances, directly impaired the effectiveness of council operations and the timely conduct of city business. No sustained corrective improvement was demonstrated. While the interim city manager supervisory period is limited in duration, Charter Section 314 does not restrict employment decisions to a single supervisory timeframe. When performance issues are ongoing, documented, and continuous, the charter authorizes consideration of the employment's full employment history, prior documented performance deficiencies, continued failure to meet essential job requirements, and fulfilling charter mandate responsibility to assess organizational effectiveness during a period of transition. The interim city manager appropriately relied upon both historical documentation and current performance observations. The recommendation to terminate is therefore grounded in a well-documented pattern of continued performance deficiencies, lack of sustained improvement despite prior or current leadership oversight, the critical role of the city clerk in supporting the governing body and ensuring statutory compliance, accuracy, and operational continuity. Based on this record, the city has determined that continuing employment is not in the best interest of effective governance or city operations consistent with the authority granted under City Charter Section 314. In accordance with City Charter 314, the recommendation to terminate Ms. Rainey employment, again, is reasonable, defensible, and is supported by the administrative record. The recommendation is not predicated on the duration of the interim city manager's supervision, but on long-standing unresolved performance deficiencies that persisted across multi-administrations, including during the interim city manager's transition period. And with that, I close unless there's any questions.
Now invite Ms. Randy Rainey or her representative to present.
Mayor and members of council, I have submitted a written appeal for the record. Today, I would like to briefly highlight the core issues that bring me before you. I was appointed to the office of city clerk by formal vote of this council based on recommendations of the city attorney as reflected in approved meeting minutes. Under the city charter, that appointment authority rests solely with council, and so does the authority to remove me from office. No council vote occurred prior to or following my termination. Instead, the actions were taken administratively. Respectfully, the action exceeded the authority granted under the charter and bypassed the process required for a council-appointed position. Beyond the issue of authority, the termination also lacked fundamental due process. I was not provided specific allegations tied to measurable standards. No active or progressive discipline was in place, and I was not given a meaningful opportunity to respond before the decision was made. The performance improvement plan issued in 2024 was limited to a 30-day period, concluded without any findings, extension, or resolution, and was not active at the time of my termination. During the same period, the city was aware that I was undergoing cancer treatment. While some limited flexibility was provided, my workload increased, telework was revoked, and no alternative support or reassignment options were explored. Other employees were reassigned when challenges arose. That option was not offered to me. Additionally, on the day of my termination, I was presented with a severance agreement that contained no terms and was given approximately 3 hours to decide whether to resign or be involuntarily terminated. No council discussion or approval of severance term had occurred. Under those circumstances, the option presented did not constitute a meaningful or informed choice and further underscores the procedural deficiencies surrounding my removal. I do not stand before you claiming perfection, as no public servant is. I stand before you asking that the rules governing this body and its appointed positions be applied consistently, lawfully, and fairly. For these reasons, I respectfully request that council reverse this termination or remand the matter for proper action consistent with the city charter and established procedures. Thank you for your time and consideration. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
During the calendar year of 2024, you say here 30 days that was presented to you, and this was for paperwork put in for performance,
Correct.
right? Package that was, and you had 30 days to enhance, improve upon that measure. So you're saying within the 30 days of improvement of those posing discretions, you're saying there was nothing put in place to measure you by, and from the ongoing measures of what I've been seeing and what I jotted down of improvement from what the city is seeing and how it has been documented, even from the 30 days of you getting this performance, there seems to be a lack of expanding and moving forth, Clerk Rainey, to the point, and this is just, I'm just going to speak from me coming in the month of March. Okay. My first interaction was not with you, it was with the deputy clerk. One of the things you stated in here, you said upon your medical dealing, and I don't want to call it out, but I want you to know that I have empathy and compassion. My brother, my mother, and my 36-year-old daughter all have been impacted. So I want you to understand that I understand from a daughter, from a sister, and from a mother, what that feels like and how to walk that journey. But at the recovery stage of what you had to move into, you're saying that you did not have any support. You had a full deputy clerk that was your assistance. So for me coming in, I saw support. I saw support from a deputy clerk that I had never experienced from me coming in this building since I've been a resident. Um, Also, this aspect of you were not gauged or you didn't have this chance to improve. When I came in, I was so embarrassed because I was being signed in as coming into this seat in March. The package and how you displayed to me what me and my transitional team had to have in place. We complied with all of that. When I got here, the day of being sworn in, there was no judge. And so it was reflected upon my team that some kind of way we dropped the ball. That was not the case. We was following instructions given by the city clerk of Forest Park. And I'm not going, everybody, I'm not gonna go into these past discussions or how I felt or what was going on with the former city, the former mayor. But I really thought what took place was unfair. It was a very nerve-wracking day. I really thought it was not legal. I questioned some things. I had to go back and call some people because I really thought this city was doing a very grievance injustice thing to me, but that fell in your lap. And so I know what that looks like coming in and something very small, such as a signature, could make the difference between me being legally appointed in this position. So that was my first occurrence that I experienced. The second occurrence with you being a city clerk was during the time of election. There was confusement that went out for all of us that was coming back in to run. It was a legal expectation that was put out by the state for all candidates. You had the date wrong that conflicted with the day, and it brought confusion. To again, I'm sitting up here and I'm still confused with that date. So, from me coming in, I have experienced two very prevalent things that allowed me to come in and to put my hands to be a servant to the city. It was at your helm. It was at your hands that you had supposed to provide it and guided me. And I'm going to see and stand on those two factors of what I experienced that were legal, that should have been taken place. I don't know. I just don't know. I experienced somebody who assisted you, the deputy clerk, and the experience was wonderful. But the first time coming in, I'm gonna repeat this again, being sworn in, it was nerve wracking. And I really thought, my God, is this how the city operates? If you are the initial contact for this diocese and you drop the ball, I'm looking at the whole city as being incompetent at that time. And so that's what I have to say with my experience as you being city clerk. And it has been noted. Okay?
May I address that if you don't mind?
Yes, please.
So when I refer to as saying I had no help, I'm referring to the last 6 months once the deputy city clerk left. She left in July. And so from August up until January, I have not had help. I had requested help back in, well, when she left, we had the position out. Over 400 applications were submitted. Me and HR sat down and looked through the applications. I asked Interim Chief Clemens, could I proceed? I was told, no, she has to wait to see how well I do. So, yes, I did not have help the last 6 months of me working here. As far as the election, per the charter, either a judge or the mayor can swear you guys in.
That was something that was not conveyed. And during the time when I was being sworn in, you had a deputy clerk, so you had help, you had assistance during that time frame, and that was in 25. So I saw where you had. Well, my experience with you coming in, you had an assistant, and I'm hearing grievances, during that year, even with you having an assistant.
Yeah, you're right. I had an assistant who
You had,
left in
you saying you didn't
July.
have, you saying I didn't have, you didn't have the support.
I
So I
didn't
hear what
have
you're saying. You
support.
didn't have the support coming in 2026, but you had, there were documents of you, not measuring up to the job description, even in 2025, with you having to support.
That's understandable. I'm really just here to ask about the how it was done, the termination, and if that's like lawful and legal. Because again, as an appointed position, looking in the minutes, you have the city attorney who recommended, then you have a council vote. According to the charter, you have to have a vote with appointed positions. So I'm really just here on asking as to, was it a lawful termination?
Madam Mayor.
Attorney Metricardi, can we
Yeah.
refer to Attorney Metricardi?
So the appointment is made via the charter. The termination will become effective if affirmed by a vote of the city council. And so it is substantively the same action. The way that it was done via the city manager, the interim city manager, was an effort to having to avoid, a public process as of this, but due process has been afforded and we are in full compliance with the city charter.
Thank you.
May I ask a question, if you guys don't mind?
Sure.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So with the severance package that I was presented on the 16th, it was empty. Like there was no terms or agreements. Um, were you guys even, was that even brought to your attention beforehand? Because I would think that somebody who would be presented an agreement, it would already be already talked about and discussed and filled out so somebody can make the proper decision.
Madam Mayor. Mayor. So, first of all, thank you so much for what you have done for the city. We appreciate your service to us. In full transparency, we were made aware and are aware of some of the deficiencies. Um, and because we selected, the city manager to, um, try to avoid this process, um, because I know it's difficult to come out in front of everyone. And so to answer your question, no, we didn't know of the specifics. It was just something she was going to bring to us to allow for for that to occur. But since you selected not to go through that process, that's why we're here today. Um, but again, I want to thank you for what you have done. I know you try really hard, um, but I do feel like it's in the best interest of the city um, to move in a different direction.
I understand and I respect it. Again, my fight and my flight is the how, and not the why, but the how it went about. So, Attorney Matricardi, correct me if I'm wrong, with appointed positions, they have to be voted out before any type of agreements are presented to, like, it has to be discussed before it's presented, correct?
So it was discussed in executive session. And so the city manager was acting per the direction of the majority consensus. And so, as I mentioned, the final action isn't effective until there is the mayor and city council vote. So it is in accordance with the city charter. I understand what you're saying about the appointed positions, but as I referenced, it was just, to ensure that there could be a discussion outside of the public forum. And so that's the reason why it was occurred in that manner.
Well, may I ask another question then? As far as me signing a suspension, how could it go from a suspension to a termination?
So for suspension to termination, I know there's other things that occurred. And it was per the direction of, that was received by the city manager, so. um,
So
Yeah.
was there a PIP put in place?
So you're not required to be on a PIP for this disciplinary process, and everyone's an at-will employee. I'm sorry, I can't face you
That's fine, I
and
can- I
talk in the
can hear
mic
you.
at the same time. So everyone's an at-will employee here. There is a progressive discipline process. However, it specifically notes in the handbook that appointed officials per the charter can be terminated for cause or without cause. There doesn't have to be a performance improvement plan in place. So it's this, there was sufficient evidence, even though it doesn't have to be, even though it's not required to have the evidence of any deficiencies.
So what about like the last chance agreement or anything like that?
So you're not required to have the last chance agreement. If you did look at, Ms. Rainey, if you looked at the letter from November 3rd, I believe, from the city manager, interim city manager, that was the final warning. And so the suspension and other write-up was actually in addition to, so it was in addition to the last chance, the last final warning. So it was in excess of that requirement.
So even though in the employee handbook, they have a disciplinary action of how you're supposed to do things, really wasn't done that way. And again, that's why I'm here to express the how and not the why, but the how it was done.
So your opposition in that is noted in the record and will be preserved.
Thank you.
So, I just wanted to say, cause to kind of take the heat off of Chief Clemens a little bit. Chief Clemens did come to us and advise us of her direction, what direction she wanted to go in, and it wasn't termination, actually. And it was the governing body that actually decided, that would be the best route to go. So I just don't wanna, make it seem like she's just coming in here all haywire, but it was our decision because of the, repeated levels of, what is the word I'm looking for? Performance issues, not just when she came, but when Mr. Clark was here. And fortunately, she just came in and listened,
Mhm.
to what the council wanted. But again, her recommendation was not termination.
Thank you. I'm done. Any more questions?
Any other questions? Discussion? At this time, I believe we can move, I'd like the motion to move into executive session for personnel litigation and real estate. So move. Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? All opposed? Is there a motion to end the executive session and reconvene the special call meeting?
I make a motion that we, end the special, in executive session and go into our special election.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I've been asked for a motion to appoint Director Shalonda Brown as interim city clerk while the council continues to deliberate on the interim city manager's recommendations to terminate.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes carry, and the motion carries. Okay, at this time, we will have a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And the meeting is adjourned.